This is Ed Rogers, and I'm here to show you how it's all connected. Even though Barack Obama is out of office, the left is continuing his social policies as evidenced by all the criticism of President Trump's recent temporary refugee immigration ban. Former President Barack Obama set out to fundamentally transform America. After 8 years, we can see what he had in mind. By his actions, we can conclude that he had a three-pronged attack. He planned to change America by changing the people, by changing the economy, and by changing the military. Today, I'd like to focus on his plans to change the people. Why change the people? Because when he took office, too many Americans would never buy into his radical ideas if they knew what he actually intended to do. Too many people were too intelligent, too religious, too conservative, and too patriotic. To change all that, he had to give more power to the low-information voters and increase the number of new Americans who would vote Democrat in exchange for the good life he would provide for them. The method was to dilute the population by introducing as many foreigners as possible, foreigners with no preconceived ideas about what America should look like. It didn't matter if they could contribute to the economy or make America stronger. Before going any further, I want you to know that I am not talking about those who love America and have sought a better life here. Some of my best and closest friends would be considered as immigrants or refugees, and I would do everything in my power to allow them to stay and gain citizenship. I'm talking about the plans of the left to flood America with those who have no intention of making America stronger. As far as the left is concerned, the preferred immigrant would be someone who would be a drain on the economy. That would assist in number 2 above, which is changing the economy. 90% of current refugees are on food stamps. 73% are on Medicaid. To accomplish the goal, any disruptive force would be welcome. Consequently, we now have MS-13 gang members, Zetas, drug cartel soldiers mixed in with assorted Africans, Arabs, and Asians, and unknowns seeking a better life for themselves as they stream in unhindered across the border. Obama's policies are still being promoted by the left. Whenever possible, he would utilize the Cloward-Piven strategy of planned chaos, hidden under a blanket of humanitarian sympathy, throw in images of poor starving children crossing our southern border, and the public will take the bait. When that has accomplished its purpose, create an international refugee crisis complete with similar images. This brings us to the European and Middle Eastern refugee crisis. Obama's lackluster response to the Syrian civil war and the advances of ISIS makes sense only if he has some other purpose for these events. His inaction in Syria has led to 3.5 million refugees, 10% being targeted by the UN for resettlement outside the region. Don't think for a moment that Obama had nothing to do with this decision. Since the vast majority of the refugees clamoring to be resettled in a safer area are Muslims, one wonders why the oil-rich Muslim nations in the region don't offer to take their people in. The reason is simple. They don't want to risk being deluged by jihadis. They know that ISIS has planted their members among the legitimate refugees. They also know that many of the Syrian refugees are neither Syrian nor refugees. Estimates place around 40% of the refugees as military-aged men. Leaders of rich Muslim nations can smell trouble, and they want nothing to do with the UN's resettlement program. The hard fact is that in the Arab Muslim culture, jihad is prioritized above humanitarianism. Wealthy Muslim nations will pour billions into Islamist expansionism, mosques, madrasas, weapons, but they won't prepare for the inevitable humanitarian crisis that lurks around the corner for every nation, even when they know it will threaten fellow Muslims. Saudi Arabia, for example, is unwilling to take the refugees in, but instead has offered to help Germany accommodate them by donating an undisclosed sum of money and by building 200 new mosques to make Germany feel more like home for the Muslim refugees. In addition to the Saudis, the Jordanians and Turks have their own problems and don't want to import the Syrian civil war into their own borders. Only Western countries are stupid enough to do that. Jordan and Turkey have resentfully set up refugee camps without actually offering permanent legal status, as Europe, Canada, and the US are expected to do. Let's take a quick look at the so-called refugees that have already found a new home in Eastern Europe. Once again, the Syrian refugees, the media champions, are often neither Syrians nor refugees. Outsiders with fake Syrian passports are common, and once they arrive, the demands begin. Those engaged in trying to help them tell story after story of how difficult they are. Here are some of their complaints. In Bulgaria, they complained that there were no jobs. In Sweden, they took off their clothes to protest that it was too cold. In Italy, Muslim African refugees rejected pasta and demanded food from their own countries. Some Europeans have gone so far as to construct mobile phone charging stations so that destitute refugees can check on their Facebook accounts. Refugees in Italy were throwing rocks at police while demanding free Wi-Fi. Many of the Syrian refugees returned home on their own from the Zayatari camp in Jordan when they saw that there weren't enough treats for them there. They went back to Syria from Turkey and even Europe when they didn't find life quite to their liking. If they were really facing death back home, they would have stayed. The Greek island of Lesbos has been turned into a war zone by rioting migrants, leaving the island's residents in despair. The number of migrants now exceeds the 86,000 permanent residents. The sense of entitlement of so many of the Syrian Muslim refugees is beyond belief. The average refugee feels entitled to what he desires by virtue of his superiority as a Muslim and non-Muslims' inferiority as infidels. Anyone waiting for a thank you will have a long wait. Now you have a good picture of what President Obama wanted America to accept in the name of humanity. 10,000 Syrian refugees while he was in office, and as many as 100,000 in the near future. It's an essential part of his strategy, and now the left's strategy, to change the people of America in order to regain power. Now you have been warned. Meanwhile, the world is in an uproar that President Trump had the audacity to place a temporary ban on refugees coming to the U.S. We are living in a mad, mad world. And finally, to lighten things up a bit, here's my thought for today. What do Eskimos get from sitting on the ice too long? Polaroids. I'm just saying. I invite you to check out my website at edrogers.net, where you'll see my books, blogs, and newsletters. Until our next program, this is Ed Rogers, showing you how. It's all connected.